Welcome to Nordic Metal Cruise 2025. This is Rauta, and this time I have special guests from Sweden. So, Tre Kronor. Hello, sir. Please state your name and status. Why are you here with me?
My name is Jakob, and I handle the drums in the band Månegarm.
How about you, sir?
I sing and play the bass in Månegarm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. When I got the information from our peer people who were like, so who I'm going to interview? It's the drummer. And then I was like, but Erik actually plays quite a few instruments. So let's start with the story. What's the story with you being the drummer, but you also being titled as the drummer?
I was the drummer. When Månegarm started out in 95, I played drums.
Yep.
And for the forthcoming 10, 15 years, I played the drums on a couple of albums. But then we got Jakob in the band, and for a while I only sang, and my band members was like, do a little like Bruce Dickinson. Yeah, fuck you, I will try. But then our bass player quit after like 2 years. So after that I do the vocals and I play the bass.
So getting back to you, how it felt, fill the shoes. Was it an easy task, like, I play drums so much better than you? Or like, oh fuck, what I'm doing here?
No, definitely. It was also a great honor. I mean, I'm a little bit younger than the rest of the guys and from the same town, and it was like a metal band that had contracted with a record label and was out playing and everything. So it was pretty big shoes to fill for me personally.
Yeah.
And technically to play those parts. So it was a real great honor, and I was, and still are, really happy about it.
Well, that's obviously a good thing to hear. Now, let's go a little bit back to history. You guys have been doing this stuff about 30 years now.
Yeah.
And the style hasn't changed too much. When I remember hearing you guys, I think it was like very, very late 90s when I heard you the first time. And when I was recently, again, re-listening to the latest album a couple of years ago, the basic concept is more or less still the kind of a combination of black metal and folk metal and, Viking themes and all. How do you keep it together without, like redoing the same album all over again, like keeping it fresh, but still Månegarm?
That's a really good question, but I think you're right. I mean, the concept and the style is the same. We're older, so maybe the pace has we're playing a bit slower these days. But I don't know. I mean, when we started, it was supposed to be melodic, primitive black metal with folk music influences and the theme about Norse mythology and the Viking era, and we have kept that. And but not to reinvent ourselves. I don't really know. We just create music and compose songs and try to make the best of it. But I don't think too much.
You just go with natural
go
ways.
with the flow. I think so. And even if I come up with some riffs, songs that I think, this is a bit different, it always turns out to Månegarm, right?
Yeah.
In the end, when we add violins and vocals it turns into a Månegarm song, and hopefully a fresh one.
Yeah.
So.
What I also recently got reminded of that, not only that because you have like metal instruments and also traditional instruments, you have clean vocals and sometimes guest session vocals. And if I got understood right, you also have like a family member, younger generation in the band. How natural this came, like, hey daughter, come here and start singing, daddy wants you here for an album.
On the last album it was pretty natural because Lea, my youngest daughter, just took some vocal lessons. Is that the right word? Yeah. Actually, her teacher was Elinor, who is singing with Månegarm on the acoustic tracks and some metal tracks. So she's a really good singer, and she taught my daughter some lessons. And at that time, I have just composed this song, En snar av guld. And I wanted the female vocals to... At first I thought of Elinor. She's a great singer, as I said. But I wanted the vocals to be a more young, fragile, so to speak. And then I just asked Lea, I have my tiny little studio at home. So in that case, Lea, help me out here. Can you just try some vocals lines? And she did. And what you hear on the album, we tried a couple of times, but actually what you hear on the album is like the maybe second, third take.
Yeah.
So that was the best.
Okay, cool.
So I'm really proud, and she's proud as well, but she won't admit it.
Well, I guess it comes with the territory. It's hard to be proud of yourself when you're barely starting.
When you're 16, 17.
Yeah, exactly. Now, talking of live, I'm going to ask you first. Obviously, this is a question for both of you guys. Live versus studio, which is the stuff you enjoy most in playing in Månegarm?
I wouldn't say live, but I really like to play in the studio as well. But it's like two different things. I mean, in the studio you can be creative in another way. Meanwhile, on stage you get all the energy and everything together with the rest of the band. So I would say live, but I like the studio very much as well.
Now, given the genre, and this is not maybe the most, how to say, can be very, very creative when we're talking about combination of folk and black and all that stuff, but also very, very, how to say, conservative, considering, I mean, like folk music isn't exactly like, okay, let's play some technical drumming right there, and of course in black metal, like basically so many people are like, oh, you're supposed to be like the Arto guy or this and that guy, play super fast and all that stuff. How much freedom, basically, I'm asking, you have to be like, oh, I want to try some crazy stuff, and will the guys be like, no? Or are you like, fuck, this is my territory, I do what the fuck I want?
I think we are quite open-minded for a lot of stuff. Not only like metal and the folk music, but from time to time we try out some different instruments. We had some, like steel guitar on one song, didn't we? And stuff like that. So, I mean, I think we try out a couple of things and just try to figure out what sounds the best. But it is always like trying to put something to the song. It's a song that our centrum is not like, okay, I found this awesome drum part. It has to be on the song. Yeah. It's definitely not like that. It's like, okay, well, it's a cool stuff, but it doesn't give anything to the song. And then it's like, okay, we can keep that for perhaps another song or anything, but it's the song that it's in the centrum. I believe.
I totally agree. The song is the important thing. You need to add stuff that adds something to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just get rid of it. And I mean, the same with riffs. We're not the band that just add riffs to each other. It needs to make something good for the song. Otherwise, we can take it away.
I really, like, for example, the latest album, because it was so well balanced. It's whenever you feel like, okay, this is just getting kind of too basic Swedish thing. Okay, then it comes to a nice folky tune or the cleaner vocal parts, and when you're like, okay, I just got in, and oh, now they went back to this stuff. But how hard it is for you to like figure it out? Like, we're not gonna do the next movie thing with the folkier parts, but we also don't want to sound like your typical black metal band without the kind of a traditional parts. Like, how easily you kind of find the balance between these two different worlds in a way?
That's a tricky one. Almost the same answer as earlier. It just comes along in a pretty natural way. But I mean, Månegarm's music is for us pretty basic. We are not super musicians. We play rock and roll because we like it, love it, and we compose songs that we can play live in a decent way. It has happened that we have overproduced some stuff in the studio. Later on, discover that this is a tough one to play live. And that's not a good feeling. But to answer your question, it just comes along with it in a good way. When I try to compose the melodies for a song. I hear violin or flute or anything in my head, and then we have to try it, so to speak.
Talking about lyrics, I got the impression that you do lyrical stuff. And since you're a little bit younger member of the band, like you mentioned, how easy it for you to just create these lyrics? Now you've been in the band for a long time, but I mean, when you joined, was it easy? Like, okay, I'm gonna just take it on from here and do it.
I mean, it was it was already like a theme within the lyrics. So I just tried to continue that journey, but with perhaps some different content. But still, it was like it was one of my favorite themes as well. So it was kind of naturally and kind of, I wouldn't say easy, but just felt naturally, I believe.
So what inspires you? You write stuff about, I guess, many things in the world, but also they have to be certain kind of a Månegarm.
Yeah, definitely.
So what inspires you these days to do these lyrics whenever you're like, okay, we're now having a bunch of new tracks and you need to have the lyrics, so...
It's the original sources from that period, definitely. It's like... I don't know how many times I can go through a sagas or a source material. I always find like something little new in it, or perhaps like, oh, I was reading that one like that earlier. Now I see these and those connections. So it's I don't know. I always find something in the original source material, but. Anyway, it's also like trying to get a theme that are suitable to the melody. Because as we talked earlier, it's like the song is in the first place, and if it's a darker one, then perhaps put some darker theme in the lyrics, or is it more like more happier or what to say, then the theme, I believe, is more suitable if it's something like more positive or something like that. And that's kind of a hard thing because we often have both darker and more melodic stuff in the same song.
But I need to say, Jakob is a fucking master too. Often when we compose song, I compose a song and then I put my phone on the table and I just sing the lyrics where I want the words to be.
Yeah.
And then I send like a voice memo to Jakob.
Yeah.
And then a day or two later, I got the lyrics perfectly fitted into my.
That sounds like a perfect chemistry, really.
It really is, and I so many times I really have been impressed by that. It's fantastic.
Sounds like a great brotherhood.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, a question related to lyrics. Do you have a favorite, say, Viking story it is like your... Because everybody has their own favorite stories or favorite song and all that stuff. So, talking about favorite stories related to the themes.
I believe perhaps that was used on the latest album because it's a poem that have so many different parts of it. It's about local rulers from the area that we are from as well, and it's like the story about each king's death during generations, and it's called Ynglinga Saga or Ynglinga Tal, two different versions of them, but still I believe, but at the same time, it's got a special place in one's heart since we made a theme album about that poem. So today, I believe that's my favorite. I know I answered similar questions before, and then I said different other sagas, but that's also like the interesting part with it because I can really go into like a source material or a sagas or something and then leave it and go back to it a couple of years later and in like, oh, how could I miss all the stuff in it? So, but back to the question, I would say Ynglinga Saga.
Now, Vikings have been very, very much into popular culture in the past, say, 10 years. I mean, previously when you had to go, like, read about Viking stories, you had to go to the library, pick up some Edda sagas, or, you know, be a kind of a historian. But nowadays you have TV shows, you have video games, you have it all, basically. You have the big blockbuster movies. And getting the Viking trend going on, for me, as a lover of those sagas, growing up with them is kind of like a great thing. But it can also seem like, okay, now it's been popularized kind of like too much. Do you ever feel like it's a blessing or curse when these, you know, Viking stories and Swedish history, Norwegian history, all that stuff is brought on the table and now put in new versions of it? How do you feel about it?
I've been thinking about it a lot, actually. I am an historian, so I'm really into that. But still, it's like... I love when you can go and be as close to the research and the originals as possible, but still it's like the same way it's a good thing because I believe it's in the popular way where people actually find interest in it, just like in music. In the extreme metal, I believe that most people like start with some easier path into the genre, and I believe it's kind of the same way. It's like if that could put some interest for a new generation, then it's just fantastic.
Now, what about you as a vocalist? And you read those lyrics and all that stuff. Do you have a favorite story or theme or character that, oh, this really gets me the gig? Even if the gig isn't going too well or there's something off, at least this song will cheer me up.
Right now, I would say the same as Jakob, pretty much because this is the latest album. We worked a lot with it, and it's a great job by Jakob. And I try to get my mind into the lyrics. I have to ask a lot. I don't have the knowledge as Jakob has, but he tells me all about it, and so that's the story I like the most right today. But I mean, as for a character, we sound checked with a song called Krakes Sista Strid.
And that's from the latest album, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a great song. And it's a nice one. I just told you when we went up here. It's a good song. I like the lyrics. I like the melodies. I like the feeling to it. So when we play that one, it's easy to get into the mood.
But that's on a little bit of the darker side, if I remember correctly. The song. It's like not maybe the most energetic in a way.
No, maybe not. But it's a pretty cheery melody. In the beginning, but in the middle it has a moody, more clean part to it. So that's a pretty long song for us. 7 minutes with a pretty much happening overall. Yeah.
Talking about Vikings in nowadays Nordic countries can be a difficult topic for various reasons. Some people are going to say, okay, this is now all the Viking pillages and you know the trips related to history, like you know going for the monasteries and all the slave trading they are now brought about and all that stuff. But also it seems like what I got a conversation, I think last year, there was this Swedish guy in a Finnish festival and he was complaining that if he wears a Thor's hammer as like a, I don't know, a part of Viking culture founding, there could be a club saying like, no, you cannot go here. This is seen as a not necessarily racist thing, but kind of like in a different ways. Have you seen any of these or gotten these accusations like, okay, you're singing about these topics, you're a toxic band or whatever? Do you ever get these weird statements or whatever?
I'm glad to say we haven't. Maybe some tiny comments when we start out, right?
Yeah.
But really not.
That.
And that's we're really happy for that because that would be just hard, you know, boring to sit and answer questions about that shit.
Yeah, I was just wondering because I mean at the same time you have bands like Amon Amarth going big with all the Viking themes and obviously all the kind of characters and all that stuff and like I said they're all there right in the video games and nobody's pitching them. But suddenly when a band sings about it or sees some kind of for example I have a Thor hammer tattoo and I never imagined there would be any kind of political statements, but when someone from Sweden said, "Oh no, you cannot do that here at the club," and I'm like, "What the hell? Like, isn't it part of your culture? How it's suddenly forbidden?" And it makes me feel like, what the hell is going on? And that's why I wanted to ask you, like, if you have seen some kind of culture or climate change in that sense.
I think it was perhaps more like the way you were speaking about it for a couple of years ago, but not today. And that's also a thing I appreciate with like what you said about the popular culture. Like it's in some way taking it back because it has nothing to do with those kind of political things.
Exactly. Yeah.
But we are really happy that we haven't been like accused for something like that.
Yeah, it would feel fucking weird if you were.
Yeah, certainly.
Now, talking about your music going outside when you tour, and this is obviously a little bit hard for people to understand who don't know anything about Swedish. So if you go to places where Sweden is not the language spoken, how people understand the message of the music and the moods. I mean, melodies are universal. But when it comes to like you go in on stage and this song is about this and that tale and they're like, I don't understand a single word. So how do you communicate that with say, I don't know, Latin America or Southern Europe or whatever two places?
When you look at the audience when you play, you can nearly think that lyrics are universal as well because they can sing along with the lyrics. Maybe they don't understand shit, but they sing along, and that is just fantastic. It's so cool to see, right?
Yeah, and it's the same with like lyrics. Seen pictures many times where people actually are like reading those sagas in their language, with like translations of them, and that's just awesome. That's pretty much what we talked about earlier. That actually it's more people are reading those fantastic stories.
Not that we're going to conclude the interview because you have the meet and greet to do.
Yeah.
A couple of questions before that. First of all, any favorite memories, favorite tours that you've done, certain bands that this is the one memory or one thing that I want to take with me to the grave? Like this is I'm so proud of because doing this. Do you have any certain things?
Yeah, it's hard to pick just one. We have been doing many cool things. I mean, the 70,000 tons of metal. We've been to Brazil 2 times, Mexico. When I look at the feed in Facebook for bands like NC Ferryman and stuff, they are at Pagan Fest right now, and we played Heidenfest. They did so many tours with Pagan Fest, and also they added Heidenfest, the same thing. That was a cool memory. Along with the others, we played with Primordial, Fintroll, Equilibrium, Elevate, yeah, really cool bands. They're finished, right?
Yeah, they're finished. Yeah.
That was cool. The best touring memory, I think. It was a really nice tour with those guys. But many memories.
Let's play a little bit of quick fantasy game. If you get to choose any band ever in metal history, and you could warm up, like your
Running Wild.
Running Wild. Well, that's a wild choice.
Fucking love them.
All right.
The best band in the world.
All right. Okay. One question for both of you guys before we call it a day. A word of wisdom to your younger generation. This is one of my favorite annoying questions. Now, with this experience you have with the bands, with touring, with making albums, with lyrics and all, and now you could go back in time and tell it to your version who is 15 years old, I'm gonna play drums in a really cool band. What would you say to this younger version of yourself?
That would be like, just do it. It has so many good parts with it. It's fun. You make lots of friends. It's a fantastic community with other bands, with the audience, with just everything with it is like fantastic. So just work hard and do your best.
similar question to you. Now there is, let's assume, a bunch of Månegarm fans like, I'm gonna play my own folk black metal thing as well, and this is my inspiration. This is the band I'm looking, after. What kind of tip you would give to these people, like?
Almost the same as him, but first of all, great idea. Start a rock and roll band. It's the best thing you fucking can do. But keep it simple. Be friends. Be nice to each other, and have a great time, because it is a great time. It's for me. It's a really big part of my life. I can't even imagine it without music. So rock and roll.
There you got it, people. Music is the shit. So do it. Grab a guitar, play drums, write lyrics. It's some of the best thing you can ever do. I speak from experience, not so much touring as with these guys, but they know what they're talking about. So, ladies and gentlemen, right there, this is Månegarm. This is Nordic Metal Cruise 2025. This is Rauta. Off you go. Check out their music and enjoy.
Bye.
Bye. And a quick photo before we go. Thank you so
sure.
much for this conversation.
Cool.
Could have talking for hours about these topics. So many topics we didn't even touch, but I always say there's always a next time.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly put these here before.